Tommy from the Bronx recently posted a video called "A Wake Up Muslims Rant." In his video, which is linked in the description box, Tommy blames moderate Muslims for the continued existence of Muslim extremists. Such an absurd thesis in the minds of many wouldn't merit a response. It's so sophomoric, so overly simplistic, remarkably absurd to state that if the moderates would just overthrow the extremists, as Tommy says, then we'd get rid of all those scary jihadists and be left with only the peaceful Muslims like the few cool Muslims that Tommy knows and with whom he jokes. However, it's not like this is a rare gem of a foolish opinion. I hear Americans reason the same way that Tommy did in his video uncomfortably often. I even used to think this way myself when I was about 8 years old. So let's address it for those who need it cleared up. Tommy opens by declaring that a lot of people on YouTube are scared to talk badly about Islam. I suppose that declaration is intended to prove how brave he is for rambling for the next 10 minutes about how bad Islam is or could be. I'm sure there are plenty of people who genuinely are scared to speak ill of Islam, but I think those would be people who want to watch their image, such as corporations not looking to offend people, or people who live in places where free speech is not tolerated. On YouTube, however, I don't know about a lot of people being scared to criticize Islam. The next point he moves to is that there's a ton of great Muslims out there, of which he's sure. Percentage-wise, he estimates 80% of Muslims as being peaceful people, and that 20% are radicals. The crux of his argument is, and I quote, "Why don't you 80% okay, uprise and fucking take over your own fucking people? 'Cause listen, those radicals are killing you, your people, okay?" End quote. Tommy, do you think it's never occurred to moderate, peace-loving Muslims that the extremists who cause heart-wrenching quantities of hatred, bigotry, and other abuse to rain down on them just might be worth considering as their opposition? You think that all they needed was a YouTube video from a rambling, profane American to inspire and educate them that radical Islam is bad for moderate Islam? The first of many layers of things you've gotten wrong here is talking about radical Islam as if it's strictly a small group of people rather than an intangible ideology. Of course you can make arguments and consistently voice your stance to separate yourself from an extreme version of your own ideology, but you can't just uprise and overthrow it, especially since a wide spectrum of that ideology is held and shared by millions of people across the globe. You're talking about this issue as if there are 8 good Muslims and 2 bad ones all in the same room, and the other 8 are being made to look bad by those 2, and you want those 8 to beat the hell out of the other 2 to shut them up. It's just not like that in reality. That leads to the next layer of absurdity in your video. You're telling these moderate, peace-loving Muslims to overthrow their extremist counterparts without any specificity for what you mean by that or how you think they should do it. Are you asking them to physically attack the extremists? You suggest that they use their hands against the extremist guns, but surely you can't think it's wise to condone physical attacks against those with whom you disagree. Maybe you're asking them to in some way censor their unpopular speech, but then again, that would be painfully un-American of you. Now, after declaring just how not afraid you are to speak ill of Islam, you declare that you're scared of the future of Islam growing in America, and you slippery slope fallacy your way into expressing that several generations from now your family members may get stoned or decapitated by the widespread acceptance of American Sharia law. And you say to today's moderate Muslims that it's all, quote, because you people can't have a fucking uprising and fucking stop the fucking madness. Are you kidding? End quote. Are you kidding, Tommy? I've heard more fair and balanced discussions of religious nuance on Fox News, and that's saying something. You also dropped some seriously radical anti-American shit in this video yourself, Tommy, primarily by saying that if people agree with and believe in 100% of the Quran, that they should, quote, go to the fucking Middle East and get the fuck out of this country, end quote, because you don't want them here. That's simply not how America works, Tommy. American citizens, whether they're native-born or have gone through the proper steps to legally immigrate, reserve the right to think, feel, and worship whatever they want, and you don't get to ship them out of the country on the grounds that you don't agree with them or you don't want them here. Tommy, you keep bringing up in this video, even as you assure your audience that the USA will throw in and join the moderate Muslims in their unspecified uprising, that you are referring strictly to the radicals. You seem to be under the impression that as long as you're talking about those crazy extremists, you can say whatever you want about them, and those listening will smile, nod, and even cheer along. It's okay to censor their freedom of speech. It even seems, based on your word choice, that you're condoning this extremist minority get physically bullied out of existence by the religious majority. Is the irony of your own argument here getting heavy enough to choke you yet? You are an atheist, Tommy. That makes you a minority in your own country, and there are many Christians who consider those who identify as atheists to be a far greater threat than their brethren of different faiths. There are abundant religious people in your country who consider you to be a threat to the sanctity of their holy existence and feel threatened by your existence right now, not several generations from now. Should that religious majority uprise against atheism? Should they force us into censorship or physically attack us like you told moderate Muslims to do with their hands against the firearms of their radical counterparts? Do you think that Christians in America would be effective in doing so if they tried? How would you respond if they did? Keep in mind, extremists feel justified in their behavior. They aren't mustache-twirling comic book villains who celebrate their own admission of pure evil. Let's try another analogy to show you the foolishness of what you're asking for, Tommy. Think about any minority group in your country with whom you disagree. To my understanding, though I haven't read your voter's registration card, you are not a member of the Tea Party, are you? You see, the Tea Party is a group of right-wing extremists in America. I happen to hate the fact that right-wing nutjobs in America misrepresent Americans like me by making us look like jingoistic, bigoted assholes by carrying themselves in that very fashion as loudly and arrogantly as possible. Now, by your logic, Tommy, if you agree with my sentiments about the Tea Party, it's our job to have an uprising against them. If we don't want them to continue making us look bad, and if we don't want the generations down the road to suffer from the Tea Party's political advancement. Should Middle Eastern folks shout at you to hold such an uprising because those extremists are making you look bad, and it's your job to get rid of them? Or because of the potential consequences that might be brought into law because of their continued existence while you sat idly by? You see, Tommy, well, people should separate themselves from members of their ilk with whom they strongly disagree. Placing the duty to extinguish extremists onto the moderates is simply absurd. Most people just want to live their lives in relative peace and to do their own thing. They want to go to work, spend time with their families, enjoy their hobbies, take in life's pleasures, and avoid its pains. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't become your duty to combat the extreme or harmful members of each demographic to which you belong. This is why it's not the average educated black person's duty to rid the streets of black gang violence. It's not the average educated white person's job to rid the country of slack-jawed redneck mouth breathers. It's not the average American's job to rid the world of Tea Party wackos. It's not the average Christian's job to obliterate the Westboro Baptist Church. It's not the moderate Muslim's job to rid the world of extreme Islam, let alone is it acceptable for you to blame them for the effects from which the future could suffer for them not solving the misbehaviors of people who aren't them. I will agree with you that we should at least make our own positions clear and make it publicly known when a member of our own demographic says or does something extremely cruel or stupid. We should remind the world that such a minority does not accurately represent us all. That's why when a fellow American atheist male says some extremely foolish things in a particularly crass and inarticulate manner directed to an already misunderstood and bullied group, I consider it my personal duty to correct him, even if he is in the minority among atheists in saying those things. That only makes sense, right, Tommy?